that it's all in orange, which would take us a long way, yes.
All right, behind the headlines, Congresswoman Jackie Speier. The California Democrat recently introduced legislation that would establish a permanent presidential commission dedicated to the status of women in America. Her bill came less than a few weeks after President Obama created the White House Council on Women and Girls. But Speier insists the two offices won't be in competition with each other.
I think the White House Council on Women is a great step forward. I see it as internal. I see the commission, the Presidential Commission on Women, being external, pulling from the resources of women across this country as to what their interests and needs are and where there's discrimination still going on. And externally, that is a great means by which the president, I think, can garner more support and more information.
So this would establish a permanent commission? Would it not need to be reauthorized by Congress every so often?
No, it would be in statute. So unless it was repealed, it would not.
But should President Obama have done what many of his predecessors did, not President Bush, but should he have established a commission rather than a council?
Well, actually, Bill Clinton created a council as well, so he is following in the Clinton manner. But I think what we're saying is we want something permanent. A council, a presidential council, is something that evaporates when the president is no longer in office. President Bush created one that sort of morphed into something else. What we're saying is that the Presidential Commission on Women is appropriate. It should be in statute. And the truth of the matter is we have not come a long way. I love to harken back to that Benson and Hedges commercial, "We've come a long way, baby." Not, because women still only earn 77 cents for every dollar earned by a man. The number of women serving in Congress right now is 17%. The number of women actually serving in state houses, on county boards of supervisors, on city councils is actually declining. So the discrimination that goes on right now in the marketplace in terms of health care, women paying more for their health insurance, hundreds of dollars more a year, because, oh my gosh, they may be of childbearing age. But even when you extract that population and are looking at women over the age of 45, women are still paying more for their health insurance. So there's lots of areas that need to be addressed, and I think a presidential commission will give the president a lot of material from which he can build in many of his departments a commitment to serving women.
The conservative argument is that that there's no pay disparity between a young PhD male and female coming out of college. I think that the data show she earns about 98% of what he earns, and that what hurts women is taking time out for family caregiving. What do you say to that?
Well, what I would say to that is it's just not true. It may initially be true upon receiving their PhD, but it quickly changes. And I actually did a survey on gender equity at universities at the University of California, and we saw it across the country. And their lab space was smaller square footage. They didn't get the same opportunities to seek positions at other institutions because it was typically a male who was the chairman of a department who would seek out other males, and there was always a clock, so a woman with a PhD had to, publish or perish, and you couldn't stop the clock to have children. So there's lots of things historically that have been part of the problem as it relates to women reaching their goals. The only real equity that exists is in places like Congress, where we all make the same salary, except Speaker Pelosi makes more.
Do you think there'll be a day when we won't need a commission, when women will have achieved parity, and we won't need a commission or a council?
I hope so. I mean, that certainly is the goal. I would want it to be so, gender neutral that there wouldn't be a need to look at these issues. But that's not the case today, and that's why having a commission is so important.
So, Ann Lewis, if she were to get her commission, her permanent commission,
bearing in mind that there is a White House counsel on this issue, how would that help the Lilly Ledbetters of the world, the women who are plant managers working for Goodyear in Alabama, making $7,000 less per year than a man with similar training in the same job?
A very good example. And as Jackie Speier said, pay equity, continuing pay fairness is an important case. For example, while we were able to pass the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, I'm glad to say, we have not been able to pass the Paycheck Fairness Act, which has some pretty simple rules in it, like employers couldn't retaliate against workers who discuss their salary. Now, women can't know if they're being discriminated against if they don't know what the guy working at the next bench makes. And, of course, as you know, that's how come Lilly Ledbetter didn't know for 20 years that she was falling behind. So there are some other simpler, more common sense rules we could pass. Paycheck fairness isn't moving yet in the Congress. And as Jackie Speier said, with 17% of the Congress being women, we're having a harder time with some of these economic issues, some of the health care issues, the insurance disparities. There's a lot to do.
But Ann, yeah, there may be a lot to do. But the question is, do we need another government agency to do it? It's only $2 million, I realize that. But in this time of, $1 trillion deficits that we're talking about creating yet another agency, there are lots of organizations out there in the private sector. There are lots of divisions within government that already deal with this. And so I just think this is layering on and not...
There, 10 seconds.
Well, the thing is, information is power, and what this commission is likely to do is to gather the information in a way that women that are advocating on support of these policies are able to do it in a very effective, intelligent way.
The Women's Bureau at the Labor Department has been doing this for its, 70 or 80-year existence. They ought to reinvigorate that if they want to do something.
All right, that's it for this edition of Commentary. Next week, population growth and the environmental movement. Please join us.